How would you feel if your home was threatened by an unstoppable force you can't see? That's the reality for millions around the world due to the rising sea levels. Imagine, if you will, a slow but steady encroachment on the land we call home. It's not a sudden invasion, but rather a relentless, creeping rise in the world's oceans. This is not a hypothetical scenario, but a tangible reality we're facing today. Rising sea levels, fueled by the twin engines of melting ice caps and warming ocean temperatures, present a stark and immediate challenge, especially for our planet's coastal communities. The causes of this phenomenon range from human-induced factors to natural changes. Our relentless production of greenhouse gases, for instance, has accelerated global warming, leading to the melting of the polar ice caps. This melting ice in turn swells the volume of our oceans, pushing the sea ever further inland. Natural processes such as thermal expansion, where water expands as it warms, also contribute to this rise. The potential ramifications are immense. Coastal cities, home to millions of people, are at risk of inundation. Infrastructure from roads to power plants could be submerged. Valuable agricultural lands may be lost to saltwater intrusion. Moreover, the inhabitants of low-lying island nations face the very real possibility of their homes disappearing beneath the waves within their lifetimes. The urgency of the matter cannot be overstated. This is not a far-off problem for future generations to solve. The effects are happening now, and they're accelerating. Every year, the sea rises a little more, the storms become a little stronger, and the coastal erosion gets a little worse. In the next few moments, we will take you on a journey to coastal communities around the world that are facing this crisis head-on. We will explore the human dimension of this global issue and examine the challenges and the resilience of those living on the front lines of this unfolding environmental drama. The rising tide is a global challenge that calls for a global response. In the next few moments, we will take you on a journey to coastal communities around the world that are facing this crisis head-on. Imagine living on an island where the highest point is barely above sea level. Now, imagine that sea level rising. A reality for many, this is the daily life of the Pacific Islanders. The Pacific Islands, a collection of over 7,000 islands sprinkled across the world's largest ocean. Here, the people are intimately connected with the sea, relying on it for sustenance, transportation, and even their cultural identity. But the relationship between the islanders and the ocean is changing. The culprit? Rising sea levels. As global temperatures increase, the sea expands and the ice caps melt, causing the sea level to rise. This isn't a distant, far-off problem. It's a crisis that's happening now, and it's dramatically altering the lives of Pacific Islanders. Consider this. Some islands in the Pacific are barely a few feet above sea level. With the sea levels rising at an alarming rate, these islands are in danger of disappearing entirely. The Pacific Islanders are literally facing a rising tide that threatens to wash away their homes, their livelihoods, and their very existence. But amidst the dire predictions, the Pacific Islanders are showing remarkable resilience. They're not merely passive victims of climate change, they are active participants in their future. They are adapting to their changing environment in innovative ways. From constructing seawalls and planting mangroves to help reduce coastal erosion, to exploring renewable energy sources that reduce their carbon footprint, they are fighting back. They are also raising their voices on the global stage, urging world leaders to take action on climate change. Their message is clear: we are the canary in the coal mine. What we're experiencing now will eventually impact coastal communities around the world. The Pacific Islanders are showing resilience in the face of adversity, but their struggle is a stark warning to the rest of the world. Their story is a reminder that climate change is not just an environmental issue, it's a human issue. It's about homes, communities, and cultures. It's about survival, and it's a story that demands our attention. Not all nations are on the losing end of this battle. Some are turning the tide in their favor. The story of the Netherlands is a testament to this spirit of resilience and innovation. A nation that has lived with the constant threat of inundation for centuries, it has turned this challenge into an opportunity. A significant portion of its land is below sea level, with nearly a quarter of the country sitting more than a meter below the waterline. The Netherlands has a long-standing relationship with the sea. In fact, its name literally translates to lower countries in reference to its low-lying geography. But rather than succumbing to the sea, the Dutch have been harnessing its power for centuries. They've built dikes, canals and windmills to pump water out of their lands and into the sea and have reclaimed significant portions of their country from the water. But in the face of rising sea levels, the old ways won't suffice. The Dutch are not merely content with holding back the sea, they're now learning to live with it. They're leading the way in innovative sea level management with a concept called room for the river. This approach accepts that water can't always be controlled, so instead of fighting it, they're creating spaces for the water to go when the rivers flood. They're also investing in floating architecture, creating homes and buildings that rise with the water. They're redesigning their cities to embrace the water, not just withstand it, and they're sharing their knowledge with the world, helping other nations prepare for the rising tide. The Netherlands is showing us that adaptation is possible and that it can be a catalyst for innovation and progress, but it's also reminding us that this isn't a battle we can ignore. The sea levels are rising and the time to act is now. The Netherlands may be winning its battle against rising sea levels, but it serves as a reminder that we can't take our environment for granted. In Bangladesh, the threat isn't just from the sea, but also from the skies. This land of rivers, located at the world's largest delta, is no stranger to environmental challenges. The country's unique geographical position makes it particularly vulnerable to both cyclones from the Bay of Bengal and monsoon rains from the skies above. The country's low-lying topography, with more than a quarter of its territory standing less than 5 feet above sea level, makes it incredibly susceptible to the effects of sea level rise. As the global temperatures rise, so do the sea levels, and Bangladesh finds itself at the forefront of this escalating crisis. The melting ice from the Himalayas feeds directly into the rivers of Bangladesh, causing them to swell and overflow. The resulting floods destroy homes, crops, and vital infrastructure, disrupting the lives of millions of people every year. And yet, the real danger lies in something far more insidious: the gradual creeping increase in sea levels. This slow-motion catastrophe is not just about the water that's coming in, but also about the land that's disappearing. Every year, hundreds of square kilometers of fertile land are lost to the sea, leaving thousands of people displaced. This is not just an environmental crisis, but a humanitarian one too. But Bangladesh is not just a victim, it's a fighter. Despite its limited resources, the country is taking bold steps to adapt to this new reality. From building climate-resilient homes to implementing early warning systems for cyclones, Bangladesh is showing the world that it's possible to face the rising tide head-on. Yet the struggle is far from over. The sea continues to rise and the storms continue to hit harder and more frequently. The people of Bangladesh are caught in a relentless battle against the forces of nature, their lives and livelihoods hanging in the balance. The story of Bangladesh is a stark reminder of the intersection between climate change and socio-economic factors. The country's plight underscores the urgent need for global action on climate change and the critical role that adaptation and resilience play in our collective response to this global crisis. Rising sea levels aren't just a problem for coastal communities, they're a problem for us all. Let's take a moment to gaze beyond the coastlines. The rising sea levels are not just washing away homes and habitats, they're triggering a cascade of global implications. Picture this, a domino effect where each falling piece represents an issue that, in turn, nudges the next one into motion. First, we have the displacement of people. As coastal communities become uninhabitable, residents are forced to seek refuge elsewhere. This is not just about losing homes, but about losing centuries of cultural heritage and identity. These climate refugees, a term that is becoming disturbingly commonplace, are predicted to number in the hundreds of millions within this century. Next, we have the economic impacts. Coastal cities are often economic powerhouses, driving the global economy with bustling ports, thriving tourism, and sprawling metropolises. As sea levels rise, the cost of protecting these areas or rebuilding them escalates. The impact isn't limited to these cities alone. The ripple spreads to industries worldwide that depend on these economic hubs for trade and business. Then there's the potential for geopolitical tensions. Displacement of people can lead to conflicts over resources and land, as borders are redefined by the encroaching seas. Countries need to navigate these changing realities, striving for diplomacy amidst potential disputes. And let's not forget the environment. Rising sea levels disrupt ecosystems, endangering species and threatening biodiversity. The loss of coastal wetlands, crucial carbon sinks, exacerbates global warming, propelling us into a vicious cycle. It's a daunting picture, isn't it? But it's a picture that we need to face, to understand the gravity of what we're dealing with. Rising sea levels are not a distant threat. They're here, they're now, and they're everyone's problem. The ripple effects of this crisis will touch every corner of the globe. Let's not wait for the tide to rise further. It's time to act for our coastal communities, for our global community, and for the planet we call home. The situation is dire, but all is not lost. There are solutions and strategies that can help. Our world, in its resilience, is brimming with innovative ideas and strategies to combat the rising sea levels. These solutions span across technological advancements, policy changes, and community-led actions, forming a three-pronged approach to this pressing issue. In the realm of technology, engineers and scientists are developing innovative solutions. For instance, in the Netherlands, they're creating floating cities, a pioneering concept where homes, roads, and parks float atop the water, rising and falling with the tides. In places like Bangladesh, there's an increasing reliance on climate-resilient crops that can withstand salty water, safeguarding the livelihoods of millions dependent on agriculture. Turning our attention to policy changes, governments worldwide are recognizing the urgency of the situation. They are implementing stricter regulations on greenhouse gas emissions, investing in renewable energy, and redesigning urban landscapes to be more resilient to sea level rise. In the Pacific Islands, they've even adopted policies to relocate entire communities to safer, higher grounds. Now, let's not forget the power of community-led actions. Across the globe, local communities are stepping up to protect their homes. They're planting mangroves along coastlines, building seawalls, and educating others about the importance of sustainability. Their actions, while small in isolation, collectively form a powerful front against the rising tides. Of course, these solutions are not foolproof. They require significant investment, both financially and in terms of human resources. They also necessitate a global commitment to change, a willingness to put aside differences and work together for the betterment of our planet. But despite the challenges ahead, these solutions give us hope. They show us that we are not helpless in the face of this crisis. They remind us that with ingenuity, dedication, and global cooperation, we can adapt to our changing world. These solutions are a beacon of hope in the fight against rising sea levels. We've seen the challenges, the struggles, but also the resilience and solutions. So where do we go from here? In the grand tapestry of life, every thread is interconnected. We are all part of this world, and the responsibility to protect it lies with each of us. We've journeyed together through the Pacific Islands, the Netherlands, Bangladesh, and beyond, witnessing the courage of communities confronting the rising tide. Now it's time to ask ourselves, what can I do? Small changes in our daily lives can make a significant difference. We can reduce our carbon footprint by walking or cycling instead of driving, by choosing renewable energy sources, by reducing, reusing, and recycling. It might not seem like much, but if every one of us made these changes, imagine the impact. But it's not just about individual actions. We must also support policies that address climate change. This could mean voting for leaders who prioritize the environment or advocating for legislation that promotes sustainable practices. It could mean lending our voices to campaigns that fight against deforestation, pollution, and overfishing. Remember, policy changes can have a massive impact, but they require public support to be implemented. The power of the collective voice cannot be underestimated. And then there's education. Spreading awareness is crucial in this fight. We need to talk about climate change, about rising sea levels, about the crisis at our coasts. We need to share the stories of the communities we've seen, the innovative solutions they've found, the challenges they continue to face. We need to ensure that everyone understands the urgency of the situation, because understanding breeds empathy, and empathy breeds action. We must remember that this isn't just about the coasts. The ripple effects of rising sea levels will touch all corners of the globe. It's about our homes, our communities, our future. It's about the world our children and their children will inherit. And so we must act. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today. Because every day we delay, the tide rises a little bit more. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, to feel like our actions are just a drop in the ocean. But remember, the ocean is made up of billions of drops, and each drop, each action matters. So let's rise to the challenge. Let's make the changes in our lives, support the policies, spread the awareness. Let's stand with the communities facing this crisis and fight for a sustainable future. Remember, every ripple can create a wave. Your actions matter. Together, we can turn the tide.